Hi, I'm Max Temkin, one of the co-creators of Cards Against Humanity, and this is Tabletop Deathmatch, a competition to find the next great tabletop game. Last year, over 500 people submitted their unpublished games to a panel of expert judges. 16 finalists came to GenCon to pitch their games in person, and one of those games will win a first printing paid for by Cards Against Humanity and be named the champion of Tabletop Deathmatch.
Hello, my name is Paul Tseng, and my game is Outer Earth. It is a space development game, and it is for 2 to 6 players. It takes 1 to 2 hours, and it's kind of like an economic strategic game. Power Grid and Race for the Galaxy with the space theme would be 2 big inspirations, but just games in general, because I love Tetris and the mechanics behind it, and it's something about just understanding a game from its bottom core and building on that. We tried to stay away from the grim and dark sci-fi theme because the way the game works is that you're actually developing industries on planets. So a primary industry would be cows in a field, while a secondary industry would be using the cow's milk to make cheese, while the tertiary industry would be selling that cheese in a store. So it's more about this progression of development instead of focusing on aliens and civilization and like human beings trying to survive in this bad condition. It's more about the industry developments. I actually did my thesis on Tetris, where I looked at mechanics and I broke down Tetris into its mechanical features, and that really got me into dissecting games and just looking at how they worked. As I got into the board game hobby, I realized that I really actually wanted to develop and design a board game.
Thank you so much for coming. Tell us about Outer Earth.
Outer Earth is a game for 2 to 4 players. It takes around 1 hour to 2 hours to play. And I would say the recommended age group is 14 and over. The premise of Outer Earth is that each player will be taking control of a planetary development company, and they'll be developing newly explored and terraformed planets. So when a player acquires one of these planets, he will then be the sole industry developer on this planet, and he'll get the rights to develop infrastructure. And players will be competing against each other to get the rights to develop on these planets. Multiple rounds will keep on going until all of the planets have run out of the galaxy, which then initiates the last round. When players complete planets, a stock market is also affected, so that at the end of the game, a scoring is also done on the stock market according to your planet portfolio and your stock investments, so it keeps the game unpredictable until the end. The game is quite visual, where you stack cards on top of each other to make connections. Therefore, the ideal thing is to actually look at it and see what kind of connections you can make in the game. Planets also have an initial connection that you got to start developing on, so it's important to look at a planet and see what kind of benefits it'll give you from an industry standpoint and also from a connection standpoint. And it also has an industry type on the top, which will help towards your industry benefits at the end of the game. You also have a company sheet to track your stats throughout the game. So you can have 2 developing planets at the same time. You can have 1 planet queued up so it can get developed, but you can't buy more planets than this in an auction. So if you have filled up your planet capacity, then you have to wait until you have finished off and completed a planet to get another planet in the auction. Over here is your investments, where you will gain additional action points. You will also gain additional industry slots on your planets. Over here is the industry capacity. It allows your company to develop more industries, so it's a benefit you can get to upgrade your company so that you can develop planets further. And on the top over here, all of your completed planets will be placed sideways. And this will represent your planet portfolio. So at the end of the game, you'll be scored for both your planet portfolio and your industry investments on the side over here. And over here, you can see a physical stock market that will move according to when you complete a planet. So let's say I completed an orange planet. What happens is that I take the orange planet marker and I move it 1 tick up. This makes it really visual to see how the stock market increases throughout the game. And it also becomes a narrative of what kind of planets are being completed throughout the game. So multiple rounds occur until Yet again, the last planet is explored in the galaxy deck, which then initiates the last round, and then the scoring phase. And whoever has the most points at the end of that is the most successful planetary development company. And that is my game, Outer Earth. I am a barista. I also do freelance graphic design on the side. So I do websites, branding, and a lot of book design. Board gaming is kind of just like a mini passion on the side, but it's turned out to become a bit more than a passion now, so I hope that it's gonna stay that way.
So thanks so much for telling us about the game, Paul. Definitely the first thing I'm noticing just taking a look at it is the design is really, really strong, and I think it really helps me understand like why everything is here and understand how to use it. You also used a really nice typeface. Did you do the design?
Yes, I did. I did all of it.
Really, really nicely done.
Thanks.
This is a game of corporate exploitation of resources. So this could be Rio Tinto, the board game. So how is the theme tied to sci-fi?
One of the reasons that I'm focusing on such a fluffy theme is that my artist friend Daniel is someone that I'm really familiar with, and we also jive really together, and we've fleshed out a really like vivid scenario and theme as in fantasy setting for this game. He just has a really, I would say, nice style to accommodate a space game like this, and he has a really nice way of illustrating fantasy elements, and he's willing to go beyond just normal illustrations.
It seems really interesting the way that the paths would interlock to create an industry. What were some of your influences in developing that part of the game?
I wanted to keep it low to no kind of like dice rolling or number looking, and I just felt like the visual card cascading, which I'm calling it, is something that was really intuitive. You just look at your hand as a set connections that you can rearrange.
You can come up and show us if you need to.
So pretty much a planet has multiple connections. This is the primary connection, secondary connection, and there's no tertiary connection over here. I'll look into my hand and I see a lot of orange, which is primary cards, green, which is secondary, and yellow, which is tertiary. I then try to look at my connections to see how I can connect this planet over here and maximize its benefits. That one doesn't bring it over to the tertiary one, so I want to do something like so, maybe like so, to get the benefit of the tertiary card.
But you would lose the second one.
Yes, I would lose the second one because only the most recent industry is what you gain the benefit for. So the most recent industry card on the planet, when you complete it, goes into your industry investments like so.
This is a game that seems like it's walking into several crowded spaces at the same time. There's a whole set of space mining, exploration games, you know, Race for the Galaxy, Galaxy Rails, all sorts of stuff like that. There's also lots of games that have this sort of auction mechanic that you just, sort of like what you just described. And then there's this sort of pipe building puzzle game, waterworks style conceptual thing. And I'm having a real problem trying to get my brain around what you think is the thing that's going to make this game leap out of those spaces, leap out of that sort of set of crowded boxes that it's in, and get folks to say, I need to play Outer Earth.
One really big benefit this game has is that it's really interactive. In the auction, you're fighting against, or you're competing against other companies, and it's really about the one-to-one connection with the people around the table. It's also interesting because you randomize the Galaxy deck every round, meaning that the Galaxy stock market fluctuates back and forth depending on the game, which then influences the endgame scoring, making it really unpredictable to know who wins at the end of the game. I would say one of the really big benefits is that the artwork is going to really make the game pop.
I'm really curious, could you tell us a little bit about how you play tested it? And I'm especially interested in what's the learning curve of the game like? Are people able to pick it up and master it on the first play? Do they need to play it several times to understand how the mechanics come together?
I've playtested it multiple times, and the same thing happens where the first game is pretty much what you need to learn it, because at the end of the game, that's pretty much the kind of like turning point where you understand that the planets that you develop and the industries that you invest in actually affect the end game scoring. So a lot of people don't see that as influential choices when you pick a planet in the beginning, but at the end you'll be like, oh, I got 3 points for that planet that I picked and I didn't even know why I picked it. It's more about going through the whole flow one time and understanding the game for the next time. It will be easy to pick up for people that are just average gamers, I would say.
Thank you very much. So we're going to kick you out and we're going to hold on to your prototype for just a minute so we can take a closer look and talk about it, and we'll see you in just a few minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I felt that sci-fi games were actually too complex with the numerical values, encounters, and tokens when you actually had to start placing like 5 tokens here to buy this 1 token that you need then 2 tokens for to get this crystal. So it's more about making it a really simple way of developing a planet with these industries instead of looking at numerical values. And it became this kind of like pipeline connection where you visually connect cards to each other.
You guys want to come up and take a look at this thing? So Sherry, I'm definitely interested to get your thoughts on production here, because I mean, we're looking at a lot of different pieces and parts and components.
The board is small, so that's a positive thing. Most of the components are really simple. They're chipboard or cards, so no, I think that the game is going to be pretty easy to manufacture. But something that surprised me was, when I first read about this game, I was intimidated by it. After his explanation, I think I could play it. I think I would enjoy it. I don't know why. You know, I'm really being honest. I don't know why. It didn't seem like something I would be interested in, but I actually think I could get interested in this game.
Well, I think, I mean, what I took away from his presentation, I can tell Paul is a designer, and I think he's doing design, like graphic design, thinking about this game. You know, he's really coming at it from the perspective of how do I take these complicated ideas and distill them down for people to understand. So I think it's really telling that this is the most complicated game we've seen so far, and he finished with time to spare.
Really cool that this is actually in space instead of being another Euro kind of economics game that is on Earth, Puerto Rico, or just random European city. It's actually kind of cool to be in space, and I see something like this being a lot like Empire of the Voids. So a lot of people will see it, they'll want to pick it up, they'll play with it. It's going to come down to the game mechanics, if people will keep playing it and keep driving the game forward.
Were you asking about how the theme was kind of connected to the mechanics?
Right, and he couldn't answer. The theme doesn't connect to the mechanics.
And I had the exact opposite reaction.
Right.
The theme does connect to the mechanics for me. You're developing a planet.
No,
yes, you can be developing.
You could be developing anything.
That's right.
But
that's the problem.
So it's a Euro game.
Is that in addition to
boring Euro game?
So I may be doing some I may be doing some like headcanon here, but I actually thought that there was a really cool part of the game where there's like a gold rush and these players are mining all the planets, and when the galaxy gets mined out, that's when the game ends. Yep. Now he didn't explicitly...
Like every other Euro game.
Well, I thought it added...
What Euro game has paddles and pipes?
Lots of them have auctions.
This game shouldn't have paddles and pipes.
That's not fair, right? I mean, the criticism that this falls into the crowded space that I was talking about is completely valid, and the game has innovative elements. Yes. Right? Those two things are not on the same track. This is cool. Right? This stuff here, and by the way, I don't think there's anybody who has seen more of these kind of games than I have. This is all new. Right? There's nothing. I've played tons of these types of games, and this is a very different way to do this concept than I have ever seen.
This is such a cool dilemma that the top card is what connects to your player board to give you the benefit of the planet. That's awesome. I want to play with that.
This is a game designed by Edward Tufte. I mean, everything checks together in a way that you see how it physically lays out. Like you can intuit how it physically lays out without looking at the rulebook. That doesn't change the fact that this is fitting into an environment where there's 15 games on the shelf that are just like this one,
Right, you look at this and you're going to be like, should I get this or should I get Eclipse? Should I get, I mean, even though Eclipse is like massively more complicated than this, you're still going to look at both of those games next to each other and be like, well, what am I buying?
The thing that set it apart for me, because I think I'm on your guys' side a little bit, because when I heard the space theme, I rolled my eyes. I'm like, okay, this is another one of those. But the art that he chose, to me, if you take this box and you put that next to any other quote-unquote sci-fi game, this jumps out. Because it's not a generic sci-fi style of art.
So, Luke, you're absolutely right. This doesn't have to be space. This could be dwarves mining. Dwarves mining, it would be exactly the same game. But it isn't.
Right,
but that doesn't mean
market.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's not an interesting set of mechanics that go together to make it.
Puerto Rico could be anything, and I don't think that diminishes the value of the game.
That's fair, but this Puerto Rico is of another age and another level of design. I mean, he's coming after Puerto Rico, and he's got to address that. I mean, this is a hodgepodge. I think he's considered the design. I don't think he's considered play.
We're looking at a game that has been thought through extremely well on the what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, and I just don't think we're looking at a game that's been through a real development design.
Yeah, we have no idea what the end game's like or what the stock market will do at the end, or I mean any of that.
This is a game I would put 4 developers on, right? Not just one. I would make sure that we had a full team on it, and I don't know, we're not there yet.
Okay, well, we have got to stop and bring in the next game, but thanks, guys.
Once I found out that I was part of the top 16, I was actually quite ecstatic. It was quite the good feeling that my efforts so far had really become something bigger than just a prototype that I had for myself now. I knew that I had to show it for people. It's really pushed me to make this game, and I would have never been able to do it.